Hello and welcome to the Brubacher and Beyond Podcast, where we are shaping the world we live in so more people can find the construction industry uncommonly refreshing. Hello and thank you for joining us today on podcast number 35 for the Brubacher and Beyond. We do have an internal guest here today. Again, my name is Chris and A.J, Director of Business Development, and my co-pilot here, AJ, is here.
My name is A.J. Kobe, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Specialist here at Brubacher. And obviously, great to be here.
How's everything going?
It's doing very well, and I got to tell you, this is a very special episode. If you've seen on our website and also on our social media, we are in the middle of a major milestone in the story journey of Brubacher. And we're excited to talk about this, a big move, and that would be Brubacher's recent acquisition of Abel Construction and Abel Recon, which, Chris, as you know, this is a huge step forward in how we deliver value to clients, strengthen the team, expand our impact. So we got a lot to unpack today.
We do, and I think we have the man to talk about it today, Keith Brubacher. Good to see you, Keith.
Welcome.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I feel the pressure there. We certainly have a lot of interesting things to talk about. Appreciate the privilege to be together here with both you fine gentlemen, and you each play very unique roles in this organization, and just appreciate the opportunity to be here and to see each of you play your part well, and we're going to have some interesting discussions.
And on a side note, though, Keith, there's an anniversary coming up.
Yeah.
Have you been talking to my wife? I don't think I'm anything there. No, the 35 years ago this month, I started Brubacher excavating full-time. I'd worked part-time summers before that, and so 35 years ago, I graduated from high school, and soon after that, started here full-time. So I'm told that's about 35 years ago, very close to today.
And what was your first day like? Full-time.
I don't remember my first day full-time. Okay. I was a wannabe pipe laborer, but I was a little too scrawny to actually lift the SDR 35 pipes that are 13 feet long. Never did figure out how to bevel a pipe very well. And so I have a lot of sympathy when I see people joining the industry today and struggling with some of those things, because that was me 35 years ago, and I remember that, and I was probably some foreman's bad day, maybe even bad week. But,
oh no.
Wow. Well, congratulations on 35 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a story journey for you as well. We want to know straight from you, Keith, what inspired Brubacher to pursue this acquisition?
It's really a part of an opportunity to grow our scope of services that we offer to clients, along with some geographic footprint expansion. It's an opportunity for our team members to grow, and whether they're those who have been at Brubacher for the long term or those whom we've recently welcomed to join Brubacher. And it's certainly an opportunity to expand our influence as we seek to shape the world we live in a way that's uncommonly refreshing. So you combine all those things together, and this has certainly kept us stepping.
Through the company culture and values, Keith, how do you anticipate meshing the two company cultures and values, or the values that Abel will bring to the Brubacher team? Because it's really not two teams anymore. We're one team as a Brubacher team. How does this integration look?
Well, it's certainly a process. It's occurred to me that it's a little bit like maybe a blended marriage, where just because two parents decide to get married and maybe now the kids all share the same last name, it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody suddenly feels that and has this shared identity. So it takes time for that shared identity and shared culture and values to really integrate. But certainly we did see, as we evaluated this acquisition opportunity, we certainly saw a lot of core qualities that overlapped in the businesses, a commitment to doing what's right, treating customers well, doing our best caring for our team members, and a commitment to maintaining a good reputation and not just, hey, we're here to make a quick buck and then leave. So there's a lot of commonality that we saw and see there. But there's still a lot of different ways of going about things. We have our own nuances to that, and that's going to take time to adapt and to assimilate and to work together toward that. So it's certainly not a once and done thing. It's going to be a process over time. And there's certainly things we want to learn and are learning that we can bring from our new team members from the Abel organizations that I think will help strengthen and can actually tighten up some of the things that maybe we've gotten a little sloppy at over the years.
For someone who has never gone through an acquisition, how did this start? What were the steps to coming to the closing of the acquisition?
It starts, if we go back a couple years, to the recognition that our goal is to continue growing carefully and expanding, diversifying our revenue streams, etc. So it all starts with where do you want to go? And then there's various ways to get there. One of those can be by adding to an organization from another organization through acquisition. So we looked at a number of opportunities over the last several years. And this all started with really a connection through a third party that said, hey, I know someone who's considering exiting the business in the construction industry. Do you have interest in learning more? And so, of course, you sign non-disclosure agreements, confidentiality things. You learn a little more. You decide if you want to look into that. Certainly the names and people were familiar and had a good reputation in the industry. And our fathers, in fact, had served together on an association board. And so there was commonality and familiarity even at that stage. So that's where it all started, was with that third party through a friend of a friend that said, hey, here's a potential opportunity. Do you have interest in learning more?
So it was about a relationship. Someone made the connection through the relationship and
made a connection through an acquaintance, and then the names, of course, when that became familiar, like, oh, that's a familiar name, and that leads then to a conversation. That leads to building trust.
Now, has any other business approached Brubacher before, or was this the first time?
There have been a number over the course of the last several years, either people approaching us or a third party saying, hey, I know of someone who is looking to exit the business. And then you can also do a retained search where you hire a mergers and acquisitions company to go and look for a business that fits a certain description in a certain market, certain revenues, certain geographic area, etc. That's another option as well. And we have used that service in the past as well to evaluate potential options. Not how this particular one came into our range of vision.
So the Abel Recon, they're a specific industry that they service. Do you want to talk about more how that group is going to function, Keith?
Sure. So the Abel Recon name is one that has had good recognition over 20 years of building that business. It's well respected and understood, familiar in a multi-state area. So we retained the use of that name in the underground rehabilitation space. So you'll continue to see Abel Recon trucks on the road. There'll be a different logo and updating the branding a bit there. And so that'll operate as a separate organization under the Brubacher umbrella of family of companies that the Brubacher family stewards. So that will continue to operate in that separate sphere, but certainly there will be opportunities that we can share across the companies where they may be a subcontractor to us in certain areas, and it could be the opposite in other project opportunities.
And the Abel Recon piece, those are new services that Brubacher did not have in the past. So these are additional services that we can help our customers with their needs. And also there's some services, I guess, that we can utilize as well for pipelining or the videoing or other repairs, I guess, as well.
Yeah, it's very complementary to what we are currently offering with almost zero overlap. In fact, I think it's zero overlap and yet highly complementary to the work that Brubacher is currently doing in the underground utility space, which is a lot of main replacement, replacing old and failing assets underground, or extending mains and water services and utilities and gas lines, etc., into new places. So it's very complementary to what we're currently doing with many of the clients with whom we've established strong relationships over the years. Actually use both those services, and it will now allow a more continuity and collaborative relationship in procuring those services.
These are some of the great benefits that clients can expect. Now, with the team coming in, and I've noticed there's a lot of new people that have been coming in the last several weeks. So with that, how is Brubacher supporting the new team members here from Abel Construction and Abel Recon during this transitional period?
Yeah, it's a great question. Certainly there's quite a bit of newness, both for those who are joining and certainly for us as an organization. And as we were planning for this and we were working with the management team, it occurred to me how many things were really out of our control. And there's some of those that you have the opportunity to influence, but you really don't control. And so I was thinking, well, what is it that is within our control? And there's certainly a list of those things that we control or influence, but it occurred to me the one thing that we really control is how do we want to be as people, as leaders during this process? How do we want to be with the people that we're welcoming onto the Brubacher team at really a highly stressful time? I mean, it's a big deal. You're working somewhere and you think, hey, I'm going to retire here, or going to work here for X amount of time. I enjoy my role. And then you find out that your business is being sold and someone else is going to be picking up where they left off, and it might look and feel different. So there's a lot of emotional weight goes along with that. And so I asked our management team to, in one of our planning meetings, said, let's make a list of the different words that would describe how do we want to be during this time and with these folks we're welcoming, or those that we don't have a place for in a combined organization. And so we came up with a list and I said, okay, now if we could only pick 2 words, what would they be? And the 2 words that the team chose were empathetic, to express empathy, and positive. And so when I was making notes for the comments I wanted to share in various meetings, we would just continue to remind each other and remind ourselves that we want to express empathy and be positive in this process. I'm really not the judge of how well we did at that, but my observation where I think our team did a great job at expressing empathy and being positive in this process. I think the other ways that we're supporting team members, we certainly had a lot of folks from our HR, operations, fleet, safety, many other aspects of the organization helped interview and match skills, experience, and qualities of people who were considering joining us to try and match that to the opportunities. I'm really pleased to say that we've brought on nearly 100 new team members as a result of that. So that curiosity, hearing and understanding what someone's skills, experiences, and qualities are. And then from a practical standpoint, just things like honoring their years of service and counting that, not having to start over. So I think on the second day after the deal was consummated, we celebrated a 15-year anniversary for someone. And we shared the rewards and the recognition of that. There were a few folks that were celebrating birthdays within a few days.
Wow.
And so it was an opportunity to share a handwritten birthday card with them, which is a tradition that's been in the Brubacher family for years. So we're trying to do the things that we can recognize that are helpful. And there's many, many more. I'm sure we're missing the mark on some of them. We're not able to be all things to all people, but we're really trying to hit the high marks on the things we can do to bring empathy and to be positive and to welcome folks onto the Brubacher team.
Now, you mentioned one thing is like HR, safety. Everybody was part of this and had a piece. There was a lot of heavy lifting in a short amount of time, getting prepared. Can you talk about that stress or that sprint of the organization?
Yeah, it's a lot leading up to that, and a lot in the heat of the moment, and a lot in the aftermath, for sure. And so, as you work through a process like this, you don't know if it's going to finally come to fruition or it's going to fall apart at the bottom of the 9th inning. And so you need to be thoughtful, respecting confidentiality agreements, disclosures, etc., to not say too much to too many people too soon. And yet people need to know to start planning and preparing and systems and welcoming and all the just logistical things that need to happen. So trying to balance those two things. And then, we all had busy day jobs before all this. So yeah, it got pretty hectic. It's still pretty hectic. And we have a dedicated team. And there's some things you just reprioritize and say that'd be a nice to have, but we're not going to do that right now. You can't do everything all the time.
What are the interesting things that you've learned during this process? What is something that you would pass on to other leaders considering similar moves?
I'm not an expert by any means, just because we're partway through the first time we've ever done something like this. So I'll give that qualification to start with. So give it whatever weight you think is worthy based upon that clarification. But I think, number one, and it goes back to that intensity of the process, and certainly there's a financial component to this. There's a risk profile that shifts, all of those things. I really needed to clarify that why are we doing this? As an owner of the business, as the leader of the business, as a participant in managing the day-to-day affairs of the business. Why do we want to do this? Why is this important? Why is it worth investing this amount of time, energy, money, resources, pressure on the team, etc.? And so that was very, very important. So I think you really got to know that why. And we can talk a bit more about that here. But That was the first thing I'd say, was clarifying the why. And then secondly, delegating and engaging the team. Certainly an effective leadership trait any day of the week, but particularly critical when the pressure's on. There's less you're going to know details about, and to see the team perform and know that they prepared for and handled those things and addressed the things that you couldn't have foretold is really rewarding, and I'm proud of our team.
On the services side for our clients that will be adding new services through Abel Recon, what are those new services and how will they affect our customers?
I think that's going to vary a bit depending on the type of client. Certainly someone who's developing a brand new project in an open cornfield, that may be different than someone who owns underground utility assets in suburban Philadelphia or Metro Harrisburg or the Department of Transportation in Ohio, for example. But in addition to open cut excavation replacement of utilities, which Brubacher already performs and has been performing for years, via Abel Recon will now offer cured in place slip lining of pipes, typically 8 inches diameter or bigger. And we'll also, and that's especially suited for sanitary sewer and storm sewer pipes, more so than water, though it can be used in certain applications for water mains. And then also the manhole, vault, and underground structure lining is structural lining using a product from Spray Rock that it isn't just a thin, like a waterproof membrane, like a epoxy paint, and that has its place as well. But this is a structural lining, so if the structure itself is starting to lose integrity, is leaking, is crumbling, is showing the effects of corrosion, this can restore that structure back to its full function and to structural integrity. So those are some very new things that we're going to be able to offer to our clients with underground assets.
It sounds like it would save a lot more time and money with these new processes. So, and I'm sure that's going to be a lot of new training, especially for our team members here with Brubacher. But I think it's going to be overall a huge benefit to all these communities and businesses and just the region in general. What other ways do you anticipate the acquisition bringing a positive impact to especially the new regions that we're going to be covering?
I think it's going to be, like I said, it's going to vary depending upon the type of client and the type of project or assets that they're responsible for. But even a new project that, say, ties into an existing manhole, sometimes in that process discover that structure is not in great shape. And the sewer authority or the municipality may say, hey, Mr. Developer, because you're tying into this, how about you pay to restore that to how it should be? That certainly happens from time to time. And we'll be able to perform that, again, with a sister company versus external resources to that. So it's really another tool in the tool belt for our clients. And it also gives additional geographic footprint with the absorption of Abel Construction into the Brubacher operations. So that does give us some additional geographic space and a different employee base that is able to reach a broader range of project sites for existing clients of Brubacher or pre-existing clients of Abel Construction.
So again, with all of our new clients, all of the new features that we have, obviously the most important part of Brubacher and Abel Recon is our people and, of course, our shared values. So during this transition, how are we integrating these shared values, not just our core values, but into what their values were?
Typically in a founder-led business or a family business, oftentimes you have that key family member, that leader, really embodying the values, and you want that in any organization. Hopefully people can see that here in our efforts. But many times they're not specifically written out or listed or defined, and that was the case here where those values were lived out, not necessarily written out and defined in a way that we might hear. But we could certainly see this high sense of responsibility for doing what was said, following through with that, caring for equipment resources as if your living depended on it. Well, guess what? It does. And so those values of communicating, being upfront with the customer, walking through the process, certainly were understood and underscored and fit very nicely with how we would see things at Brubacher. But as you think about the integration and sharing values, it's really a process that is formed and tested by the challenges of building complex projects and understanding the different traits and approaches of others. So even though there's a lot of commonality, there's still different ways they're expressed and felt. And so trust is built and earned over time, usually through facing challenges together. And that's going to take time to do that with clients, with new subcontractors and vendors, as well as with some of our new team members. So with our team member orientation, the onboarding and follow-up process, that's one way that we're working to help communicate, explain, welcome. With clients, it's understanding the commitments and the expectations they had and have, developing plans to carry those out and meet those, and then also addressing any differences that arise, and they certainly do in construction, addressing them early, addressing them openly, and in a way that's professional and constructive. And that's our goal as we work to integrate those values in ways that are felt and expressed both with team members and with the clients.
So with a lot of the infrastructure failing and coming apart, and I thought it was very impressive of the technology that they have with the resources underground, like we talked about. I mean, you're putting in this felt system and then they balloon it up. If you could talk a little bit more about the actual means and methods of the new services that we will be providing for our customers.
I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually suggest we have a second
part two
podcast with some of our new team members that can detail some of those processes and the products and how that works. Certainly we have familiarity through this exploration and business acquisition process, but lest I pretend to be an expert where I am not, I'm going to defer that to a follow-up podcast.
So it looks like we're going to be doing a part 2 then.
35B?
35B. Hey, you know what? The more we know, the better. It's like...
Well, Keith, I mean, what... you could acquire other companies or like a trucking company or something else, but that's just something we already do. What was it about the Abel Recon piece that made you interested?
Yeah, it's a good question. Certainly, it really ties into a broader overall strategic goal that we've had for many, many years, really stemming from the 2006 through 2008 housing crash, from the peak to the trough into 2009 even, where we were very heavily invested in one particular market segment. And I said, well, that was pretty painful. I don't know, I want to try and live through that again. So how do we have a more diverse set of revenue streams and opportunities for our team members that has more diversity, work type, and revenue streams for the business? So that really turns the clock back now almost 20 years. But the other thing I look at is we live in an area of the country where we have some of the oldest underground infrastructure in the nation. In fact, some places you dig and you still find remnants of maybe a wooden water pipe that's still buried underground. So there's very, very old infrastructure. And we also live in a very high density of population. So all those things combined, I think there's a lot of opportunity in the underground infrastructure market in the years ahead. And it's not dependent on somebody getting a $50 million loan to build out a big project, commercial or industrial or residential. And those are markets we're very interested in and continue to be highly committed to. We have a lot of that going on every other day. But as we really look into the future, seeing that opportunity to help our clients maintain, expand, replace, and keep reliable systems for the American population to benefit from. So that's, I think we're well positioned to meet the needs of our community in that underground utility market.
And the future is exciting for Brubacher, absolutely. And again, we are going to have to dive a little bit deeper into these new processes that we're going to be doing for our clients, in which we will definitely have to get you back here for a part 2, as well as the members of Abel Recon, to give us a better idea of what, again, our clients and our customers can expect out of us.
Yeah, we'll keep on offering those new services and new features to our customers and trying to keep expanding with 100 new team members coming on board, all these new services, all this new equipment. I mean, the future is bright. Any last closing remarks, Keith?
Well, as I think about the future, certainly number one, it's always uncertain. There's nothing that's a guarantee. But we need to look at what is it that's in front of us? What is it that we do? And I've many times thought about success. I think about half of it is being excellent at what we do. And we're focused on that every day. How can we be better at what we're doing? And the other half of success is knowing what to say no to. Sometimes you figure that out after you said yes. And sometimes you figure that out when you realize you have more opportunities than you have resources and time or availability to do them. But I'm excited about the opportunity to be excellent at what we do, gradually expand the capacity of what we can do in the family of companies that we steward, so that we can shape the world we live in, both in the dirt, in the tangible work we do with cool equipment, and through our influence in the lives of those with whom we interact. And that's what gets me the most excited about living out our mission to shape the world we live in. And as I think about Brubacher, I think of us not as a construction company, and that might shock you, but I think of us first as a for-profit training and development organization that works with a great team of people and cool equipment so that we can build generational investments in projects that benefit our communities. And that's what gets me excited as I think about the future. And these are simply other means to that end.
That's amazing.
Right?
That is so amazing. Just
Right?
to see. And if I know it's a podcast and you can't see it, but if you could see the passion that's coming off Keith right now, it just gets you all fired up.
Oh, absolutely. You can feel that passion all throughout the building. But absolutely. Keith, thank you so much once again for joining us here on the Brubacher and Beyond podcast. It's always great to get your insights on the things that are going on here, and not just here, but also beyond with the construction industry. And we are looking forward to seeing what is going to be coming up next.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity to be here, and thanks for the work you guys both do and helping get the word out about Brubacher, about the construction industry. And really, there is a lot that's beyond Brubacher, and that's the part that really fires me up, because it's the opportunity we have to leave an impact in the lives, an imprint in the lives of people around us. And so thanks for your part in helping us carry that forward.
Yeah, so I will end with this. If you like our podcast, please like it, share it, send it to a friend. If you don't like it, write a comment that you don't like it, or send us an email or a text what we should be changing or how we can keep improving this. I think we've come a long way from the first podcast to the 35th podcast.
Wow, 35.
We have our own equipment, we're in our own facility, and things are moving forward. And thank you so much for that additional support, AJ, I would say.
As always, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Brubacher podcast today. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to our podcast so you can listen to new episodes every month. Share it with your friends in the industry and those who might like to learn more about the construction industry. Feel free to check us out on our website at www.brubacher.net. We hope you found the discussion insightful, and we look forward to the next time.